The door clicked shut behind her, the sound sharp and final. I didn't look up. Not yet. I swirled the amber liquid in my glass, watching the city lights shimmer through the window. Her footsteps shuffled closer, hesitant, each step a quiet plea for acknowledgement. I stayed silent, letting her feel the weight of my disappointment. She needed to understand the gravity of what she'd done. Apologies would come, but not yet. Not before she unraveled. "Hi," she murmured, her voice hesitant, almost trembling. It wasn't a real greeting, more like a probe to gauge my mood. I didn't answer. I sipped my drink slowly, letting her anxiety stew. She shifted on her feet, her nerves practically radiating off her. It amused me how predictable she was, even now. She was unraveling faster than I'd expected, which only proved my point. "Alex." She tried again, louder but no less unsure. Her voice cracked as she added, "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean for things to go like that tonight." She hesitated, then quickly added, "I swear." "Good girl," I murmured, my voice low and approving. Her hazel eyes flickered up to meet mine, and I saw it. The determination, the need to prove herself. She hesitated for only a moment as I pushed her further, testing her limits, but she didn't falter. She leaned into the challenge, her body trembling but obedient. Finally, I turned my head slightly, just enough to let her see the sharp line of my jaw. I didn't soften my expression, didn't grant her any reprieve. "Didn't mean to?" I repeated, my voice calm, deliberate. "That's your excuse?" My tone was cold, the kind of calm that unsettles more than shouting ever could. Her lip trembled at my words, and she shifted uncomfortably. Her hazel eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Alex, it wasn't like that," she said quickly, stepping closer, hands twisting nervously. "He's just a friend, and I didn't want to be rude. I wasn't thinking about how it might make you feel." Her words spilled out in a frantic rush, each one more desperate than the last. But none of it mattered. They were just words, empty and meaningless. I laughed, low and bitter. "You weren't thinking about me at all," I said, leaning forward in my seat. My elbows rested on my knees, my eyes locked onto hers with a steady intensity. "But you were thinking about him, weren't you? Or maybe..." I tilted my head, watching her squirm. "Maybe you just wanted to see how far you could push me tonight." Her breath hitched, her cheeks flushing a deep crimson as the tears finally spilled over. "That's not fair," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I wasn't trying to hurt you." She looked so small standing there, her hands clenched at her sides, trembling under the weight of my gaze. But I wasn't ready to let her off the hook. Not yet. "Fair?" I scoffed, setting my glass down with precision. The sound echoed in the tense silence between us. I stood slowly, towering over her. "Fair is watching my girlfriend flirt with another guy in front of me? Fair is seeing her laugh at his jokes, touch his arm, like I don't exist?" My voice was sharper now, each word landing like a blow. "You think that's fair?" Her knees buckled slightly as she dropped to the floor, her hands reaching for my thighs in desperation. "Alex, please," she begged, her voice cracking under the strain. "I wasn't thinking. I didn't mean to disrespect you. I'm so sorry." She was falling apart right in front of me, just as I knew she would, and still, it wasn't enough. I stared down at her, letting the silence stretch, savoring her vulnerability. She was beautiful like this, tear-streaked, desperate, completely at my mercy. "You always say you're sorry," I said finally, my voice quiet, cutting. "But sorry isn't enough, Emily. Not after tonight." I reached down, gripping her chin firmly but not roughly, tilting her head up so she had no choice but to meet my gaze. Her hazel eyes were wide, pleading. "I'll do anything," she whispered, her breath catching. "Anything to make it up to you. Just tell me what you want." There it was, the words I'd been waiting for. She wasn't just apologizing now, she was surrendering. And she knew exactly what I wanted from her. She always did. "Anything?" I asked, my voice calm, measured, laced with challenge. She nodded quickly, her trembling hands tightening their grip on my thighs. The desperation in her expression was intoxicating, but I didn't let it show. I needed her to work for this, to understand what it meant to earn my forgiveness. "Prove it," I said simply, leaning back into the couch. I spread my legs slightly, a silent invitation, and watched as the realization dawned on her face. She hesitated for only a moment before her hands moved to my belt. She worked slowly, her fingers trembling as she unbuckled it and slid the leather free. "Take your time," I said, my voice low and commanding. "You don't get to rush this, Emily, not after what you've done." She nodded again, her breath uneven as she carefully unzipped me. The sound of the zipper seemed deafening in the quiet room. Her hesitation only made her submission sweeter. She leaned in, her lips brushing against me tentatively, as if seeking permission. I tangled my fingers in her hair, holding her in place, not forcing her, but reminding her who was in control. "That's it," I murmured, stroking her hair gently. "Show me how sorry you are." She obeyed, her movements slow and deliberate, every touch a silent plea for forgiveness. I watched her intently, every flicker of emotion on her face, every slight tremble in her hands. This wasn't just about the act itself. It was about her submission, her devotion, her willingness to do whatever it took to earn back my trust. When it was over, she didn't pull away immediately. Instead, she lingered, her lips brushing against me softly, almost reverently. Her cheeks were flushed, her breathing uneven, her hair falling messily around her face. She looked up at me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, and I felt a flicker of something deeper, something almost tender. I reached out, cupping her face in my hands. My thumbs brushed against her damp cheeks, and I let out a soft hum of approval. "There's my good girl," I said, my voice softer now. "You did well tonight." Her lips parted, trembling as she whispered, "Thank you." Her gratitude felt raw, genuine, but I wasn't done. "Next time," I said, my tone sharpening again, "you'll think twice before disrespecting me, won't you?" She nodded quickly, her voice barely above a whisper as she said, "Yes, Alex, I will." I leaned back into the couch, watching her as she knelt there, her body still trembling slightly. She looked completely undone, and completely mine. "Go clean yourself up," I said, gesturing toward the bathroom. "And when you're done, come back. We're not finished yet. There's still more to discuss." She nodded, rising unsteadily to her feet. Her legs wobbled as she made her way toward the bathroom, and I watched her go, the smirk returning to my lips. As the bathroom door closed behind her, I picked up my drink again, savoring the sharp burn as it slid down my throat. She was mine, completely, utterly mine. And tonight, she'd proven it. But this was just the beginning. There was so much more I could teach her. So much more she needed to learn about what it meant to belong to me. Leave a comment and share what you would have done. Make sure to like, share, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Want more stories like this? Subscribe to stay updated on all the latest chapters and exclusive content. Your support keeps the stories coming, so don't forget to hit that follow button and turn on notifications. There's always more to explore. Dive into the next thrilling tale and let your imagination run wild. Stay tuned.